Tape 4, Side A. Sweet Blood.
What? Where am I?
Good morrow, my child. 'Tis I, Saint Francis, companion to both man and beast, wren and squirrel. Arise and join me in this life-giving fountain.
Saint Francis of Assisi? Is it really you?
Doth my pate not extend above its ring of hair like the slick dome of an unidentified Franciscan object? Come, my child, sit with me at the water's edge, and let us partake of its hydrative sustenance.
Oh my God, what's that smell?
Ammonium phosphate, my child. Repose and replenish.
All I taste is smoke and burnt potpourri.
I do encounter many foreign aromas on my 13th century Egyptian pilgrimage to convert Sultan Al-Kamil, who later drove invaders from his homeland by intentionally flooding the Nile. And speaking of water, a drink.
Wait, did you say Egypt?
Just a drink, you idiot. A drink.
Oh,
Detective Campbell, you're awake.
I just had the weirdest dream.
You were talking about ancient Egypt and San Franciscan UFOs.
Reality licked me like a rough tongue, and suddenly I was back, propped on a pile of plastic chairs, the twisted metal of the air vent coiling past me like the shed skin of a metal snake. Next to me was Ruby, currently squirting water into my mouth from a nozzle in her chassis.
Sorry about the taste. This is the same tube I use for my built-in fire extinguisher.
That explains the ammonia.
As much as I'm enjoying our newly inverted power dynamic, you need to get up. It's not safe to stay here.
I looked up to see the night sky through the enormous gash that little Sherbert's light show had left in the mall's ceiling, surrounded by a dangling web of live wires and still groaning steel beams.
Can you walk?
I could. The mall was empty, and it was obvious everyone had left in a hurry. I dashed onto the stage to see if any clues had been left behind, but apart from a few geysers of smoldering bunting, everything was gone. My eyes skidded over the podium, then snapped back. A book. These are Eve's notes.
Detective Campbell, unless you're wondering what it feels like to get kissed by an ivy, we need to go.
I grabbed the book, tucking it in my trench coat next to Chiquita Banana's big book of bugs, and dashed towards the nearest fire exit.
Sorry, this is my top speed.
Oh, for heaven's sake, just put yourself in neutral.
The only thing neutral about me is my...
Just do it. I raced Ruby out the door without pausing to look back.
Nice driving.
Safely outside, I flipped open the book I'd found on the podium and thumbed through its soot-stained pages. This is a non-denominational pocket Bible. Eve wrote her speech for the OBM event in the margins. It's full of highlighted sections, too. Thou hast given them blood to drink, for they are worthy.
I prefer a gin Ricky.
That's a relief. Oh, listen to this. They have mouths, but do not speak. They have eyes, but do not see. They have ears, okay, we get it, but do not hear, nor is there any breath in their mouths.
We machines consider breathing unhygienic.
Those who make them become like them. So do all who trust in them.
Sounds like a cult leader to me.
Okay, last one. He called a little child to him and placed the child among them. And he said, truly, I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven.
They'll love your low IQ at the pearly gates.
Okay, did one of those falling I-beams hit your bully switch? Bring back IHOP hostess and add in the personality of one of those Precious Moments figurines.
No.
Yep, that's fine. I don't think I actually want that either. Anyway, where was I? Right. Become like little children. Bloodthirsty minion stuck in infant mode? What's that got to do with Eve's little speech from last night? And why'd she bring this case to me, the world's only full-time queer part-time detective?
She also brought it to your partner.
Dorito? Ex-partner, thank you. Right. I turned the book over in my hands. The cover was bare, but the flyleaf? Hang on, there's a stamp. Property of the 24-hour non-denominational City Bible College and 24-hour laundromat.
Hey, no dogs, no robots.
What'd you call me?
They're with me.
Not on my bus it ain't, but you can fold it up and put it in the bike rack.
Get bent.
I mean...
No.
Ruby, we're in a hurry.
Put me down. Put me down.
I'm sorry. I'll make it up to you.
No.
Hello? Hello?
This is a hate crime.
Yeah, I can see how it might feel that way. So, what'd they say about the mall explosion on the news?
The result of a short-circuiting ceiling fan.
Yeah, try a laser-breathing toddler. I caught Ruby up on what had really happened at the event. Eve's dream about infection, and little Sherbert's convulsions, foamy fit, and show-stopping rainbow beam.
Maybe we should take you to the hospital.
What? No, I saw it with my own eyes.
Right before you fell 80 feet onto a pile of folding chairs. Best case scenario, you have a concussion.
No, I saw this before I fell.
Your memory's been corrupted.
I'm not a computer.
And that's why I don't trust your memory.
We're here. I'll see you outside. I got off the bus, pulling a freshly bug-spattered Ruby from the front bike rack.
I'm going to have mosquito wings in my air filter for a week.
Let's go. The 24-hour non-denominational City Bible College and 12-hour laundromat was a fluorescent-lit Frankenstein. One side, a mass of bookcases filled with all manner of holy books, and the other, a solid wall of economy-sized washers and dryers. It was nearly 2 a.m., and the place was almost empty. But almost all of the machines were in use. The back row had an array of vending machines offering a colorful mix of detergents, fabric softeners, rosaries, and missalettes. A sign was appended to the wall. Our Castillo soap rosaries are great on tough stains.
The more I think about it, the more this business model makes sense.
Why had Eve been here? She struck me as the type who did her dirty laundry in the privacy of her own home. I cast my eyes around the room, looking for someone who might have the answers I needed.
What about that guy?
I turned to see a cherub-faced so-and-so reading a Bible in front of a fully loaded washer. His t-shirt said, "Exodus was an inside job." I flicked on my recorder. Part-Time Detective Case Note number 99. I'm speaking to an apostate biblical scholar. Could you please introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Lynn Wadham, and as you said, I guess I'm an apostate biblical scholar. What more do you want to know about me?
Well, I think that's a pretty robust introduction. So I'm curious, today specifically, I'd like to ask about the 10 plagues from the book of Exodus. Have you read the book? Are you familiar?
Yes, I've read the book multiple times. I've never taught the book. I've taught other books around the book of Exodus, but never Exodus.
Okay, this is great. And I'm interested too, as someone who's sort of straddling the line between some things you believe in, some things you don't. Do you think that these plagues are based on real historical fact? Are they supernatural events? What were they?
Oh, you're really jumping that question on me. I think there might be an historical core to ancient Hebrew slaves who migrated out of Egypt at some point. Was that coinciding with some sort of natural, like national calamities? Perhaps. I think the text itself is very poetic, is very ordered. I think it's very highly unlikely that they were actually these major plagues. There's no other record within ancient Egyptian documents, from my knowledge, that those actually happened at that time.
Interesting. Okay. And I know, the ancient Egypt as well, the record keeping, it's not like we have sort of one concrete source, but like the Gospels, I guess we were kind of piecing together a fact. From what I've read, sort of ancient Egyptian record keeping is sort of famously inaccurate in the way that it conflicts with other accounts.
Right. I think, from my knowledge, I'm not an ancient Near Eastern or expert or Egyptologist, but from my knowledge, Egyptian records and chronology is pretty good. The thing is that we don't see the Exodus event presented within any solid Egyptian record. It mostly emerges from ancient Israelite origin story, myth, and national legend. So they're the ones telling the story. So they got free reign with how to tell it.
So of the 10 plagues, 6 are kind of about disease and animals and things like that. And 4 specifically are about animals. So we've got the frogs, the lice, the flies, the locusts.
Yes. Yeah.
Why do you think there was such a focus on creatures and specifically bugs?
Interesting. See, I'm not an expert of this at all. I would have to say I do know that there's a number of scholars that say, even within the text, how the text is presenting it is that Israel's God is going head to head with Egyptian deities. So it's kind of this like battle of the deities, and it's kind of proving, hey, Israel's God is stronger. And so I know there are some people who will argue, I'm not sure how convincing, but I've heard the argument that these natural things are personifications of Egyptian deities, and Israel's God is saying, hey, I beat you here, I beat you here, I beat you here.
Oh, so it's like, hey, you think you're God of the locusts?
Yeah.
Well, here's some locusts for you, that kind of thing?
Exactly. Or even like the sun is blocked out for a time. And so Ra being this major sun deity, that would have been pretty big.
The sun god Ra is considered to be the first pharaoh of Egypt and the namesake of Ramses, whose name means Ra is the one who bore him.
This is what Ramsey feared. This is what Ramses feared.
Sorry, Lynn, could you say that again?
So Ra being this major sun deity, that would have been pretty big.
Oh, so it's such a direct kind of in-your-face smite.
Yes, definitely.
Which is very Old Testament God.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Okay, what about the River of Blood? I think that's sort of, from a spectacle perspective, one of the best known. What do you think that could have been if that was anything historical?
Oh, wow. I would have to look into that more. I don't feel confident. I've heard things, but I just actually don't feel confident enough to postulate anything.
Yeah, that's totally fine. So let's switch gears for a second. When you first learned these stories as a child, were they told to you as fact?
Yes.
And at what point, if you reached that point, did you start to think maybe this is a metaphor or maybe this didn't actually happen?
I think when I really started to get into biblical studies, you go into it as trustingly as you can. I think most people are, if they're honest, are compelled to realize a lot of these events, the way the biblical authors are presenting them, don't always match up with kind of some solid historical things we know. And so when you're in that position, you kind of have to choose, do I just assume that all these other things are just wrong and the Bible is right? Or is it more likely that perhaps these authors just didn't know certain things? Maybe these particular Judean or Israelite authors were fabricating some things. I was kind of becoming more and more convinced, and I'm like, I really don't think there's good evidence that the Exodus happened the way that it's described. And so once that happens, even when I was a Christian still, you kind of have to be like, okay, well, how can I still be okay with that and still be a Christian?
Right. That makes sense. And I guess even if, some sort of spiritual or supernatural things did happen, it still is the fact that there was no sort of scientific body to understand things. So like people would think the world was ending with a solar eclipse. So these things could happen and they may just have misinterpreted them.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. Is there a Bible story that you maybe held on to the longest as far as like, but maybe this one is true, like a Noah's Ark or something like that?
Like in terms of a miracle?
Yeah, one that you thought maybe this one actually happened.
Okay. Because I mean, there's a lot of things within the biblical text that I think definitely did happen, like makes a lot of historical claims. In terms of Noah's Ark, I think there probably was a local flood within the region of the ancient Near East at some point that was pretty big, because there are other flood narratives similar. I don't think it's historical in the sense of the details, but I think it's emerging from a broader tradition that there was some sort of, or at least a series of massive floods at the time. Probably the last one I had to let go on was Jesus's resurrection, because that's really the deciding factor for Christians, right? Once you don't believe that would happen anymore, you're like, okay, I'm not really Christian. You can hold on to mythologizing all the other ones as long as you hold on to the resurrection of Jesus. But once that's gone, you're like, well, I can't.
Right. And I guess there's a lot of things you could say, like we just misunderstood the science at the time or whatever, but it's probably pretty hard to misunderstand someone dying, being buried, and then coming back.
Yes.
Note to self, unless you believe in vampires.
I would say one thing, I do think we're switching to the New Testament now. I think in terms of Jesus, I do think there's probably good evidence that there probably were some miraculous healings that were associated with Jesus. I don't know how to explain that, but I think it's harder for me to explain that those traditions emerged from nowhere. I think there were healers in the past, and I think that like strange things happens, and I think that did happen with Jesus at times.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. And as far as, thinking about Jesus as a preacher, as someone who did a whole lot of persuading throughout the course of his life, and something that's done a lot in organized religion, and, as someone who's proselytized themselves, what do you think is the best way to persuade people to believe something?
To believe in Christianity or anything?
In anything. What's the best persuasive tactic that you've experienced or used?
Oh, I think story, personal testimony, it trumps facts most of the time. If you can resonate with people and if you can tell a persuasive story about your experience and then have people kind of see that their own experience in that light, it's very powerful.
That's very helpful. And my final question is, if you had to endure any of the 10 plagues, which one would it be and why?
Oh, that is such an interesting question.
I'm assuming you know them all off the top of your head, but
Yeah,
if not,
well,
let me know.
I mean, I do know them. Maybe I would do the locust just for pure wow factor, only because it's like they're not attacking me. They're not like the lice and the flies and stuff, right? But I just want to see a bunch of locusts eat all the fields.
Right, because the locusts went after the crops, not the people.
Yes, yeah.
So, okay, so just from a spectacle standpoint, it's something you would like to watch.
Yeah, because the other ones like the boils and things, like I don't want that's me, Death of the Firstborn, I don't want that one either.
But that's you, right?
Firstborn, no, that would not be me.
Oh, but yeah, you don't, out of respect for your family. And so I guess, Locus, you would die later from starvation, but at the time you could really appreciate sort of the
Yeah,
theater of it.
yeah.
Lynn kept talking as he tossed his wet clothes into the dryer.
I mean, I think it is interesting because the book of Exodus appears, it's one of the books within the Torah, the first 5 books of Moses. And I think most scholars accurately argue that the book of Exodus is a composite literature. So there's different strands of ancient Israelite tradition that then get formalized into one document. So you can pretty much tear the story relatively apart into its different literary chunks. And so there's times in which you get multiple callings of Moses with different sort of theological skews. Even some people suggest that the 10 plagues there originally were maybe like 6 of them with an earlier tradition of the literature, but then there was added to other ones throughout.
Like they were writing it and they were like, this isn't scary enough. Let's put some more plagues in.
Well, more like there was an earlier tradition, and then I think somebody wanted to bump the number up to 10. I mean, there's probably much more complicated historical reasons why, but
The Bible loves a solid 10.
yeah, it really does.
Thanks for your time, Lynn.
I don't trust him.
Hey, shh. Why not?
He didn't use any dryer sheets. Take it from a machine. Static clean kills.
The sun still hadn't come up when we stepped outside. Ruby blew insect wings from her exhaust while we waited for the bus on the curb, bathed in the slime green glow of the Holy Laundromat's neon signage. Hey, do you sleep?
Not really. I have a charging station in a storage unit under the Peach Emoji Turnpike and an AC adapter for when I'm at the office. You?
Sleep? Not really.
You should. You look awful.
I've been worse. Listen, go charge up. I don't want you out of power the next time I fall from a mall skylight.
Okay, bye.
You're not gonna try and stay?
You just told me to go.
But you thought I had a concussion. Aren't you worried about me?
This kind of thing may be cute to humans, but I'm about to hit my kill switch. Should I stay or go?
Sorry, you can go. Oh, and Ruby, thanks for earlier. I owe you.
I bet you say that to all your royalty-free AI-powered assistants. And on that note, maybe you should start paying me.
We'll talk later. I took a walk. The Bible was full of coercion, threats, mob mentality, and going on the lam. Eden, Noah's Ark, and Egypt. People were always skipping town and starting over, which meant they kept having to recruit a new team. Of the Bible's many themes, the through line was recruitment. But maybe I was getting sidetracked. Eve may have been reading the Bible, but I knew this case outranked religion. Who could have had more followers than Jesus and built a pyramid that could put Ramses to shame? Did they say pyramid scheme in ancient Egypt, or were pyramids so commonplace that it was implied and they just called them schemes? I called up an old CI, that's a criminal informant, who'd gotten tangled up in some messy business. She used to run a bootleg clothing racket and had tried to charge me extra for a waterproof trench coat. Part-time detective tip number 20, all trench coats are waterproof. If it's not waterproof, it's not a trench coat. I'd let her walk in exchange for her future cooperation. I knew she'd be awake. Hey, it's me. Meet me at the donut shop at the corner of Woozy Face and Ecstatic Dolphin. Shortly thereafter, we were sitting on either side of a couple of honey crullers. I flicked on my recorder. Part-time detective case note number 44. I'm speaking to a communications entrepreneur who almost got sucked into a pyramid scheme. Hello, could you please introduce yourself?
Yes, I am Katie Lohr. I am a podcast specialist and all-around podcast lover.
So, Katie, I know this is probably painful for you to talk about, but could you just start from the beginning of your experience?
Okay, well, the very beginning, I had just graduated from university. I did not get a job in the media field, and it was really, really hurting me. I was working at a hair salon instead of working at a radio station like I had hoped as a receptionist, and I was getting paid under the table. These were desperate times, and I think someone had sensed that. So I received a message from a friend of mine from university who was like, "Hey, Katie, I have like a really awesome job if you're looking for one." And I was like, "Heck yes, I am. I don't want to be getting paid under the table anymore and
Mm.
paying my rent in cash."
Mhm.
So I was like, "Yeah, tell me more about it." And she was like, "Well, I just have to like, let's just meet up and I'll tell you about it." And I was like, "Okay, like, sure, that's fine." And I was like, "But what kind of job like is it exactly?" And she's like, I can't really exactly say, like it's easier to explain in person. So she never really gave me details right off the bat.
And where did she ask you to meet? Was it like under a bridge or in an alley somewhere?
So she said, I'll come pick you up. And I was like, okay.
Did you know her well?
I knew her like decently well. So we were in the same graduating class in university at TMU. So I like knew her decently well. I'd done a decent amount of projects with her, partied with her a couple of times. Like we knew each other well enough for me to be like, you're a trusted friend that would pitch me a job because we're both people in the media, graduates hoping and looking for a job. So I was thinking this was going to be something more like media style. Because we had both graduated from the same class, and I was under the impression we were both looking for the same types of jobs.
Right, that makes sense. So someone you felt safe to get in a car with, essentially.
Yes, definitely, definitely. So I thought she was going to come pick me up after work and we were going to go like to coffee or something like that. I had no idea. She wasn't really giving me really any details, but I trusted her. So I was like, okay, like, sure. I was 21 years old. I was messing around in life anyway and doing a lot more sketchy things. So I was like, sure, I'll hop in a car with you and we'll go and discuss this job.
So what happened next?
So what happened next is she picked me up and we drove to this mansion in like Yorkville or maybe the Forest Hill area in Toronto. And it was like a massive house in an expensive area in Toronto. And I was like, what is going on here? And she was like, well, I can't even remember how she described it to me, to be honest. Somehow she convinced me that this was safe.
I wouldn't be surprised if part of your brain was blocking this out.
Yeah, I I just remember being like, why are we here? Like, what is this job?
You smelled manipulation.
I did smell manipulation. So I go to the Forest Hill mansion and I go inside. I think there was probably about 50, like maybe 20 to 50-year-old white ladies, all like skinny wellness yoga style kind of white ladies.
Note to self, sounds like the crowd I saw at the OBM rally before Little Sherbert spit laser beams. Sorry, Katie, please continue.
There was a big sort of open concept kitchen and big open concept living room attached to each other, and everybody's sort of walking around and mingling. And then on the big, massive kitchen island, there were all of these skincare products all over the table with little pamphlets and stuff like that. And I was like, ooh, okay, if I am possibly going to be selling skincare, which is what I'm assuming is why I'm here, like I'm excited to try some. And I thought that I was walking into a let's try skincare products party.
Right.
That was my first impression. I was like, okay, I'm going to walk away and go home with a bunch of free skincare.
Were you also annoyed that you walked into a party at a kitchen and there was no food?
There was no food.
That's horrifying.
There was no food. Yeah. Actually, you know what? There might have been a couple of snacks because now that I think about it, I think there probably was food and snacks. I think there was snacks and kind of to warm us up to the idea of all being here and getting randomly brought here by a friend.
Yeah.
So it seemed like a safe, inviting space where we were all going to try skincare products.
And more for you because 20 to 50-year-old blonde white women are not known as heavy snackers, I think, sort of stereotypically. So
yeah, definitely like fruit trays. It was like
Yeah.
fruit trays and like light snacks, light fares.
horrifying.
Yeah.
Okay, so skincare everywhere. So you started using the products, I'm guessing?
No.
Oh.
So I never got to try any of the products. And this is where my brain started to be like, what the heck is happening here?
Yeah.
Because we showed up and I was like, what exactly is this, friend? And she was like, oh, just wait. Like, they're going to explain everything to you. But like, let's just like find a spot like to sit and hang out. And I was like, okay. So I'm going and I'm looking at all these products and I'm very intrigued by a lot of them. And I was like, okay, cool. I'll just go sit and find out. And then that's when like a whole presentation began.
There was a PowerPoint, right?
Actually, I don't remember if it was a PowerPoint, but my brain doesn't remember there being a PowerPoint.
Yeah.
I just remember like a couple ladies just like standing up and talking about Arbonne and introducing what Arbonne was and how wonderful all of the skincare products are. And the thing that stuck out to me the most was they just kept talking about how wonderful and amazing all of these products were. And I kept being like, when do I get the free sample?
Right.
And I never got the free sample. And I was like,
Not once.
what is going on here? I was like, why am I sitting here? Because I was under the impression at that point then that they were going to try and sell these products to me.
Right.
It hadn't really occurred to me yet that they were going to ask me to sell these products.
Yeah, rookie move.
I was still sitting there being like, why do you keep telling me about these products when I can't even try it or use it or anything like that? Like, why did I go all the way to this house in Forest Hill
Right.
just to learn about skincare products?
And maybe eat some green melon. Ugh.
Yeah, eat some green melon, the worst kind.
Get it out of here. Okay, so they're giving you this pitch. They're not giving you any products. When does sort of, the worm turn? When does the penny drop?
I wish I could remember the exact moment for you because this was so long ago now. It was like probably over 10 years ago.
Note to self, it's always 10.
I just kept sitting there getting frustrated about how long I was going to be there for, how I had no out. I had to rely on my friend to drive me back home.
Yep.
And I was just getting more and more frustrated the longer time went on, not quite understanding what I was there for.
Yeah.
I think the more I realized that my internal questions weren't getting answered, I was like, something fishy is happening here. And then it was like, I think they gave us like a brochure or something like that that had packages to buy all of these products to try them all out and then see if you wanted to order more to then sell to your friends or family or whatever it was. I think you were sort of straight up outright asked to buy a package of products to try and then go from there.
And were they charging people on site? Like, was there a credit card machine or were they writing down credit card info?
They probably were writing down credit card info. I can't remember. I don't remember seeing anything like that.
Right. And you also just dealt in cash at the time.
Yeah, I just dealt in cash. I only
That's
had,
right.
$50 in my pocket.
God
And that was my
bless.
bank account.
So you sound so savvy now, but at the time, was there a point when you were like, yeah, maybe I should do this?
I think I definitely did because as a serial go-getter, I think I was like, yeah, I could totally be successful at this. But there's also a part of me that was like the frustration that I feel in being at this meeting and sensing that I was tricked into getting here with my friend never telling me what it was exactly. I think immediately I was like, something is off because I wasn't even approached in like a very trustworthy way. So
Right.
I don't think I got hooked, but I did consider it. And I think I considered it to the extent of calling my parents and being like, what do you think of this?
And what did they think of it?
I wish I could remember. I feel like I blacked out. It was too traumatic. I don't know what it was, but clearly I didn't move forward because I think the conversation with my parents was like, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no.
Okay.
So if something doesn't feel right in your gut, just like don't do it. It's not
Don't
worth
do
it,
it.
kind of
That's
thing.
really good advice.
I ended up going with my gut and saying, like, I'm going to avoid this. But I do remember now that my friend kept following up with me for maybe like months at one point. It just kept being like, hey, do you want to get started? When do you want to get started? And I was a bit nervous to even say anything because I was worried about offending her after she had like taken me to this party. I was worried about like her relying on me for sales and I didn't want to
Right.
like ruin her, whatever she was doing. But then eventually I just messaged her and I was like, hey, this isn't for me, like, sorry, kind of thing. And then it ended from there.
And it ended, well, I'm glad you got out. I have two questions here. What do you think was their most effective persuasion strategy in general, and which one affected you the most? And what would have got you to say yes if they'd done it? If you could have tried the stuff, if there'd been chicken wings?
Yeah, I think chicken wings for sure. But I think if I could have tried the products, I think that would have been a turning point for me. I think not being able to try the products seemed so suspect that I was like, this is just strange. If they really wanted me to be an advocate for this brand and sell it to other people, I would get a free trial. And this is something that's happening in life now at this stage, not necessarily with MLMs, but with influencers, they get a brand who sends them the free stuff so that they can then say what they truly think about it and advocate for it in an ethical way.
Mhm.
And I think what really stuck with me was how my friend sort of manipulated me into coming to this place. And I think had she been more truthful about what it was, and had she just said like, hey, I have a job in like skincare product sales, then I would have been more eager to join and would have thought it was just skincare sales. But because she never told me what she was taking me to and just told me she had to tell me about it in person, that immediately red flags.
Are you still friends with her now?
No.
Unrelated or as a result?
Unrelated. We
Okay.
just never ended up connecting, but I think we probably would have been closer friends had that not happened.
Had that not happened. And my last question is, do you think any one of those women lived in that house, or was it a rental just for that event?
Oh my God. What a great question. I never thought about that, but it very well could have been a rental.
Do you know what I would have loved if you drove back to that neighborhood a week later and the house was gone?
Well, it's Forest Hill House. It's still there. But you know what? The thing was, they were pushing like how much money you could really make. And being in a house in Forest Hill was definitely intriguing enough to be like, wow, especially as like a 21-year-old freshly graduated student. I was like, oh my God, like I could definitely make a lot of money with this, but it doesn't feel right.
You work in the podcasting industry now, so joke's on them. That's
I'm
right.
not making any money.
You found that wealth ticket. Well, listen, I'm so grateful for you being brave and reaching
Thank
back
you.
to, navigate what sounds like a very stressful and not
Weird.
properly catered time.
Weird time. It's always a
Weird
weird
time.
time. You know
Weird
what?
time.
I'll also mention, Trevor, a bunch of years ago, maybe like, I don't know, 7 years ago or so, whenever Facebook Marketplace like first came about, I was living in Toronto and went up to do a Facebook Marketplace trade. And I met somebody at a Second Cup and they were cool. We did the trade or whatever it was. And we sat at the Second Cup drinking our coffees until we decided to go home. And this woman came up to us and started pitching an MLM. And she sat with us for, I think, 20 minutes, 30 minutes.
Just to strangers in a coffee shop.
Just a random lady just walked up to us at the Second Cup and was like fully pitching a pyramid scheme. I can't remember what the job was I think it was like some sort of like e-learning courses of some
Wow.
kind.
For you, or did she assume you had, children you were teaching?
It was weird. So she started out pitching us these courses and then it turned into you could sell these courses and this is how our system works. And she literally shows me a
Oh, no.
diagram
Oh,
of
no.
a pyramid. And like being like, you would work under me, I work under this person works under this.
No,
Like,
pick a new shape. Pick a different shape. That's a
I was
trigger
like,
shape.
I've already seen this once before in skincare form, lady, like, and I felt so bad because they really do just like hound you for so long.
Yeah.
And that was the experience in both of those experiences with Arbonne and with this, I don't even know what it was, this lady. They
Oh,
just talk
God.
to you for so long and they just really grill you in the most polite way possible.
A friendship forged in crisis.
It truly was. I remember like looking at this woman just with eyes wide open, being like, how do we get out of this?
Oh, my God.
It was wild.
And she is now your life partner.
No. Yeah, isn't that
Wow.
crazy?
That is fascinating. And that woman spent all her weekends in that coffee shop.
Oh, for sure. She was just roaming around. And you know where it was? It was on the outskirts of Forest Hill.
Dark Forest Hill. What else is happening in Forest Hill?
Forest Hill is dark. It's a dark place.
Well, I'm going to look into it. Katie, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure. Hopefully you find or don't find people who've been in the depths of it. I'm lucky I got out before I got sucked in.
Stay vigilant, okay?
I will.
I paid for the donuts. Part-time detective tip number 26. Bait is always in the budget. Katie tells me that the ones who are in really deep are still recovering. Some of them are holed up in an MLM detox house in Fish Emoji Alley by the black market under the railway tracks. Trouble is, you need a password to enter. Katie tells me she'll ask around and call me if she tracks it down. Thanks, Katie. Smell you later. It might have been the crullers, but my queasiness was back and my hands were just as clammy as before. I thought back to what Eve had said about little Sherbert.
1 week ago, Sherby was the picture of pediatric health. Then the symptoms started. Queasiness, clammy hands, itchy neck, and a mysterious pressure headache.
Maybe something was going around. But if barfing sunbeams was one of the symptoms, surely someone would be talking about it. And if it was just us, me and Chirby, well, I'd never even met the kid. How could we have caught the same thing? But I remembered that we had met on the bus. Unless there was another kid in a pink pinafore. We locked eyes for a minute and they'd flip me the bird. Hey Ruby, what can you tell me about Forest Hill?
Forest Hill is a neighborhood in Midtown Toronto whose residents have an average income 3 times higher than the rest of Canada.
Hence the mansions.
Incorporated as a village in 1923 and annexed into the city of Toronto in 1967, the luxury neighborhood was almost bisected by a major expressway in the mid-20th century before major protests led to the cancellation of the project.
Nearly parted like the Red Sea. A real estate plague of biblical proportions.
Listen, Detective Campbell, if you're not going to take a break, at least take some medicine.
I appreciate the concern.
I'm not concerned. I find your cough irritating. Last time you went to the pharmacy, you got caught up with the case and left empty-handed.
Nothing rejuvenates like a good lead.
Try leading yourself to some acetaminophen.
As a general rule, I avoid doubling up on the same location. In this case, a pharmacy, but I figured Ruby was right. I ducked into an all-night drugstore and browsed the aisles for something that could ease my headache. A cough I could handle, but a vice grip around my brain could derail my entire investigation. Suddenly, I heard a yelp from the next aisle and ran over to find a woman bent at the waist, one hand furiously scratching swollen ankles while the other swept boxes of antihistamines and cans of DEET into her shopping basket. I flashed back to my conversation with Owen, the NOLA pharmacist, about nature's vampire.
Mosquitoes, which are basically the state bird of Louisiana.
After introducing myself, I flicked on my recorder. Part-Time Detective Case Note number 47. I'm speaking to a woman who is severely allergic to mosquitoes. Could you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, Trevor. I'm Debica Berman in Brantford, Ontario.
Perfect. That's enough for me. Well, let's go back to the beginning. Do you remember your first mosquito bite?
I don't remember the first bite, but I definitely remember like an early experience of being bitten all over. Like I think I remember my first sort of extreme experience.
And have you always been allergic? Did you have an allergic reaction?
I believe so. I think that no one knew, like no one understood that was an allergy that was even possible, I think at that time. Like I was a 5-year-old and it really took until I was a grad student before someone was like, "You're allergic." And I was like, that explains a lot. I really yeah.
Okay. So in sort of the layperson gets a bite, it's a red swollen bump, it's itchy. What happens to you?
So I end up with really big, like welt size bites. They're still red and itchy, but they're just really big. And I find hard to deal with having because usually it's just not one, right? Like I end up with like my thighs are covered or my arms are covered. Like it's never just one.
It's never just one. Is the itch more severe than other people would experience?
I feel like it is, and I feel like it lasts a lot longer. Like I have scars, for it to for the swelling to go away, it takes a long time. And I've had lots of people say like, "Oh, it doesn't look that bad," but I find it like something I have to think about every summer. And I have friends also who have had similar experiences. So I think I have found people like me.
There's a community of survivors out there. So how long, you're saying it takes a while for them to go away. Typically, how long till the bite is gone?
Oh, I don't know, probably like at least a week or sometimes more. Like I remember getting one on my forehead. It looked like I got punched in the head.
Oh, so like a big bump.
It was big, yeah.
Wow. So have you ever been formally sort of diagnosed as someone with an allergy? Did you get a test done?
I didn't get any testing done, but so when I was a grad student, the particular field I was in happened to be around a lot of medical professionals. And I was at a more of a social event, but it was outside. It was dusk, which for anyone who's gotten bitten by anything knows that that's like one of the worst times.
Note to self, this is starting to sound familiar. When the sun goes down, the bloodsuckers come out.
And so I was standing outside and I was in a skirt and my legs were covered. I was itching, and a doctor actually stopped me and they said, you have an allergy. And that was enough for me.
Wow, right.
Them just he just looked at me and was like, that's an allergy.
Wow, and that was a doctor.
Yeah.
So then, I mean, you had sort of a visceral reaction when you mentioned dusk. Do you get nervous at dusk in the summer?
Yeah, like, I'm one of those people that's like, I need long sleeves, I need socks. Like, I don't go out without proper coverage, or I don't go out. I remember being with friends in the summertime, like, it was brutally hot and everyone was sitting around, like, a fire or something, and I would be in a sleeping bag.
You would put your entire body in a sleeping bag.
Yeah.
Wow. So how did you, because you spoke about finding others, how did you find other people with this affliction?
So I think just actually having friends and then, just it coming up in conversation, I actually feel a little embarrassed how old I am that I'm now finally figuring out some way of better managing it, like taking antihistamines in advance of going out. But like I have a whole thing of the afterbite, Benadryl, the creams, the wipes, the sprays, all of it like in a bag. I went to Whitehorse a few years back and I thought there would be a lot of bugs. There's actually not, thankfully. But I bought one of those beekeeper head things
Oh, for your whole body or just for your sort of
for my head.
right. So like it's like a dense mesh, like a wedding veil, but wow. And did it work?
I didn't end up having to use it, which is
You
really
didn't.
nice.
But you've got it now in case you do.
Yeah.
Do you? Because this is one of those invisible afflictions, so invisible that not even you knew you had it for such a long time. Did you feel like you were losing your mind?
Yeah. Well, so when I was a kid, I was 5. My family and I had gone to India for a wedding. That was, a big family trip for us. It was my first time. My uncle was getting married, but the thing that has stuck with me the most clear memory is lying in bed with mosquito netting around me, but still getting bit and not sleeping. And I was in tears, like just miserable. And my sister didn't have a reaction like that, has never had reactions like that. She can be in the same space as me and have fewer bites, and they certainly don't last like mine. And for my family, the story they've sort of always been told and what they shared with me was like, you just have really sweet blood.
Sweet blood.
Yeah, I just have sweet blood. And that's why.
As a compliment, like you're a sweet person?
I don't know. It was just like their explanation for why I was getting bitten and no one else was.
Wow. Do you think is that a cultural sort of description that's used, or is it just your family that uses that?
No, I think it's a culture. I felt like it was a cultural statement, like an explanation.
Right, like other people heard that and they're like, "Oh yeah, sweet blood person."
Yeah, that's the explanation. So I think that's why also no one like, we didn't do anything about it because it was just like, "It's just your blood."
It's just what are you gonna do? Yeah.
Yeah, I have read some stories here and there of, like, perhaps there is something in my blood or in my skin that's makes me more susceptible and those types of things. I actually just watched a video on Instagram about mixing vanilla and water, like vanilla extract, and spraying it over themselves was helping. There's all kinds of ideas.
I mean, and then I would imagine would just make you sweeter.
I know, that's what I thought.
And another thing too, I mean, because I have a very childlike understanding of the human body, but I know that certain, blood types have different properties and things like that. Do you think it's a blood type related thing as well?
I'm guessing not. I don't know enough about it, but I suspect there is something if it's like a histamine reaction or like a I don't know. I should know. I have
You don't need to. You've got the mesh. So
yeah,
you're
I've got the
just
mesh, that's
yeah.
true.
Has this given you an aversion to I'm sure mosquitoes, but bugs in general? What's your relationship like with bugs?
Not great.
Okay.
Yeah, like, I think because I find it so uncomfortable, and as I get older, like, I think my tolerance for it was much better when I was younger, but the older I get, I find it far more uncomfortable, and, I don't stay outside at dusk, or I make sure I'm covered, that kinda thing.
Oh, that's so brutal. Maybe it's like a mechanic's jumpsuit
Yeah,
or like a hazmat suit. Maybe that's the answer.
I think that's the answer.
You put it on late April and take it off early October.
Yeah.
It'll be fine. You'll get used to it.
You know what? Sunshine these days, it's not that good for you anyways. It's
Who needs
hot, it's
outdoors?
uncomfortable,
Yeah.
so, it's fine. I just come inside,
Just stay inside. It's
listen to
fine.
podcasts.
That's right. Well, good luck with that.
Thank you.
I checked the call display. I'm sorry, Debica. I need to get this. Good luck with the bug bite.
It's just not one. It's never just
I
one.
know. Detective Campbell speaking. It was Katie. She'd found the password to the MLM Detox safe house. I scribbled it onto the inside of my forearm, the same place I'd written Caroline's number before I'd sent her to her death.
This is what Ramses feared.
I excused myself and paid for my meds, tossing back a few dry pills as I headed for the bus stop. Perfect timing.
Well, if it isn't the super sleuth who never sleeps.
It had to be you, huh?
I must have done something awful in a past life.
Charming. Well, based on our interactions, the next one's not looking so good either.
Ooh, you got me.
There's a lot of places you don't want to end up at 4 a.m., but down by the See No Evil Monkey emoji tracks is one of the worst. Our city is surrounded by an elevated tram system, which is surrounded by a highway. Underneath both are clusters of parasite architecture ad hoc housing. Nothing wrong with that, of course. I once spent a month sleeping in a doorless refrigerator when I fell on some unusual times, but for every person trying to mind their own business, there's 3 trying to mess with yours. There's also a thriving black market. If you need a bootleg copy of Gremlins 2 or a bulk order of kidneys on ice, that's the place. All to say that it made the perfect location for an ex-MLMer to sweat out the urge to grow a private plantation of money trees. Using Katie's directions, I found the detox house down an especially forbidden alleyway. A foul-smelling liquid dripped steadily from on high, and the fire escape stairwell above me heaved under the weight of wet trash. Oh my god, a raccoon burst from a garbage bag like a creature from the belly of its long-deceased host. Its face swarmed with the thick layer of maggots who'd been sharing its dinner. We locked eyes and considered our next moves. Trust me, I don't taste nearly as good as I look. Happy hunting to us both, pal.
Guess even rats have standards.
I whipped my head back up to the fire escape and saw a silhouette backlit by the burn of red neon. Dorito.
We had a deal. Don't interfere with my investigation.
I didn't even know you were here. Besides, I'm not chasing a lead. I'm just taking a walk to clear my head.
Right. Nothing like the fresh air of Skid Row. It's times like this I'm grateful I have congenital anosmia.
Hey, watch it. I just had this trench coat dry cleaned.
Don't worry. You won't need it when I solve this case first, and you have to quit the biz.
Wrong. Part-time detective tip number 7. A trench coat is appropriate for any dress code. Oh, I said it first. No, I did.
Stop it. Buzz off.
Kiss me. We were 20 feet apart, so we just made the noises.
Don't let a little first base fool you. You cross my path again, I'm taking your part-time detective badge myself.
Yeah, touch my badge, and you'll also need to solve the mystery of your missing 2 front teeth. Wait, no, I will not stoop to your level. Now, make like a child gymnast and split.
Make like a failed child gymnast and sprain your...
Are you okay?
I'm fine. It's just the stink of this alley and the stench of you, I assume. Smell you later.
With a flick of their trench coat and a spritz of damp trash, they slipped back into the dark. Wait a minute. Dorito has congenital anosmia, more commonly known as smell blindness. The stink didn't trigger that cough. So then, what did? Oh no, that sounds like a wet snake. Time to go.
Are you okay, Detective Campbell? Your heart rate's a little high.
I'm fine. I just bumped into a few bottom feeders.
You don't mean Dorito, do you? Detective, why are you so hard on them? It's obvious they still care about you.
You don't know what you're talking about.
According to my calculations, your efficiency would increase by at least 46% if you work together. You're a slave to your ego. Why not team up?
With all due respect, Ruby, make like a sole proprietor and mind your own business.
Since you don't pay me, it'd be a wise career move.
Okay, that's it. Lower all your settings and switch mode to speak and spell. Sorry, it's a little hard to understand you, but you do sound awfully embarrassed. Who's a slave to their ego now?
I-H-A-T-E-U.
Finally, I'd reached the alley's end. Almost indiscernible in the half-light of the blood moon was a thick slab of red metal door. An eye-level gash clanked open to reveal a pair of bloodshot eyes.
Password.
If I, oh no. My arm, the one I'd used to write down Katie's safe house password, was now covered in a slick of wet gunk. Residue from Dorito's garbage shower. Only a few runny letters remained. Oh, damn it.
You want a mad fold-in for a face? Now buzz off.
I shut my eyes, desperately trying to remember Katie's intel. If I could make you... if I could stop you...
You threatening me?
I felt my gorge ascend, but strangely, I didn't spew. Instead, I felt a second voice rise beneath my own.
If I could show you a way to make more than $1,000 in passive monthly income from the comfort of your own home, would that interest you?
Jackpot. I stepped into the darkness with the unshakable sensation that I was being watched. But not from someone up ahead, or tailing from behind. No, I could have sworn I was being followed from the inside.
To be continued. The tape has ended. Please insert the next tape and press play now.
Queerial is presented by You Made Me Queer and the Sonar Network. It's written, produced, and sound designed by me, Trevor Campbell, editing by me and Harlow Castillo, and mixing exclusively by Harlow. This episode featured Lynn Wadham, Katie Lauer, Debica Berman, Caroline Moore, Nug Nahrgang, Philip Jeremick, and a text-to-speech avatar named Kimberly as Ruby 3000. You can learn more about them and their work in our show notes. Our theme and all of our music is by Critty. For more of her work, check out lavenderbruises.bandcamp.com. You can find extra clues and case notes for this episode at trevorcampbell.ca/Queerial or on Instagram at YouMadeMeQueer. If you want to stay on the case, subscribe to Queerial in your favorite podcast app. Until next time, be careful out there. Things are getting queer.
This podcast has been brought to you by the Sonar Network.